must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey, I'm your host Dan, and we have Elizabeth back to discuss, dare I say, one of her favorite chapters in all of Harry Potter.
Not the favorite, but it's up there.
It's up there. Just a pull behind the curtain of how the podcast works is she specifically requested to come on for this chapter a long time ago. So I gave in to the request.
We'll get into why.
We'll get into why. We'll have a non-spoiler discussion like usual, and then she is going to have a bunch of rants and a bunch of venting sessions in the spoiler. It will be very entertaining, so please stick around for that. But in the meantime, let's talk about other things that happen in this chapter. We're going to start with Filch, our main man Filch. Harry gets in trouble for tracking in mud.
Right.
Which is, according to Filch...
From their Quidditch practice.
Yes. Which, according to Filch, is a crime committed against the school, to which Harry has to then answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets brought down to his office. So now we've seen Snape's office, and we've seen Filch's office, and they're both not the greatest offices in the world.
Fun. I mean, I do enjoy the fact that he's got a whole drawer for Fred and George of just their punishments. He's got filing cabinets galore in this office. I
want to point out the smell of fried fish in his office. And I'm pointing that out. If you were listening to the Hogwarts Tournament of Houses competition that we had here on the podcast, go check those out. We had very interesting competitions between all of us. Or if you watched the actual competition on TBS or Cartoon Network or wherever you saw it, one of the answers to something was Filch's fish and chips.
Oh, yeah.
It was like an answer to one of the questions. It was obviously a fake answer, but that's where that comes from. So that's where that fake answer came from. It's a ridiculous answer, but, fun.
Mm-hmm. So Harry's in the office, and Filch is writing off his detention form, and he gets distracted.
Yeah, he gets distracted by this big, loud crash, and Harry takes the opportunity while Filch is away investigating
he felt like he shouldn't leave. He'd be in more trouble if he leaves his office. So he just is like,
right. So he's sitting there in the office and spots this weird-looking letter on Filch's desk.
A quick spell.
Yeah, which reads like she puts in this writing almost like it's a commercial.
It's like an infomercial.
It is like an infomercial, like a late at night.
Do you struggle with your magic? Do you have spells that do not work? Are your potions feeble? Would you prefer to transform things without them going wrong? Try Quick Spell!
Listen to this testimony from a guy who turned his wife into a yak.
Yay!
Which
makes me wonder if it's legitimate or just a scam, a wizarding scam.
I would lean towards scam.
I would probably lean towards it too.
I would lean towards scam.
It's really prying on those poor people who are not as great with magic as they would like to be.
For one reason or another.
Right.
Which we can get into more in this spoiler if we wanted to, but I mean... Yeah, I think it's a complete joke. But anyway, Filch comes back.
He's very embarrassed by this.
Yeah, discovers that Harry didn't put the letter back in exactly the right spot, and Filch was, I guess, the most quote-unquote mad that Harry has ever seen him.
Yeah.
Not mad as in angry, mad as in...
No, embarrassment, and just tried to rush him out of the office as quickly as possible.
So that was the first round of Filch. We'll talk about Filch a little bit more later on as well.
Mm-hmm.
But before Harry got in trouble by Filch, he ran into Nearly Headless Nick and had this conversation.
Yeah.
And Nick lets him know that it's his 500th Deathday, which is an interesting concept.
Which is on Halloween. He
Which is on
died in
Halloween.
1492.
The year Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Right.
Yes. It's interesting. So, which also then tells you that this story is taking place in 1992.
Right.
If you hadn't
Right.
put those two dots together, 1992.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, Nick's 500th Death Day party.
And he's upset because, he got a letter from Sir... What was his name exactly?
Patrick Delaney Podmore.
Right. I had to look because he sassily calls him Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore, which cracks me up so much.
It is a wonderful turn of phrase.
Yeah. So he got rejected from the Headless Hut, which was upsetting for him. And of course, Harry was upset because Quidditch didn't go as well as the Slytherins practice has gone with their Nimbus 2000s and 1s. So yeah, he dragged in the mud. Filch caught him, and to kind of help him out, Nick went to convince Peeves to go smash the vanishing cabinet above Filch's office to distract him, which it worked. So thank you, Nick.
It did work. But Harry, in his haste to stop the awkward conversation with Nick,
And just to be nice.
he agreed to go to this party.
Mm-hmm.
And then promptly convinces Hermione and Ron to
Right.
go with.
Well, Nick said they could come too.
Which Hermione finds fascinating because, honestly,
It is fascinating.
It is fascinating. I would give her that as like the curiosity and her point of how many living people get invited to these things.
Right.
So I must admit, I would follow Hermione's logic of like, this is probably a once in a
lifetime thing. Yeah.
lifetime kind of thing. Like,
Or
why not?
afterlife thing.
Well, it's a 500 afterlife kind of thing. But yeah.
Once in your life.
But yeah, for those that are living,
I think
it's
Ron,
a rare opportunity.
Ron definitely, though, wishes that they could have just gone straight to the feast, maybe first for a little bit, and then fed themselves, and then go to the party.
That probably would have been wise.
They could have been fashionably late. The feast sounded really fun, though. They said that, there's rumors that Dumbledore hired a troupe of dancing skeletons, which could have been very entertaining to watch.
How does that work?
I don't know, but I want to see it.
Because I shouldn't just...
Maybe they just charmed them.
I would assume that's it.
There's probably some wizard that has skeletons at their disposal, and they just
Well, they
do
don't have to be
magic.
real. They could be fake skeletons.
I feel like they would be real.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, there's also live bats,
Mm-hmm.
which might freak some people out. I don't personally have an issue with bats.
I don't either, but I know you guys were talking about this with the first year Halloween of the disgustingness of having bats just flying around.
There'd be a lot of guano, though. I don't know how
Yes.
they'd figure that one out. They just charm that one. I don't know.
It'd just be gross.
Giant pumpkin lanterns that Hagrid has been growing, which I had imagined would look stunning.
Well, they said 3 people could fit in one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're like carriage size. They're almost like
Yeah.
Cinderella
Yeah.
pumpkin sized. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Well, they don't go to that. So they
No.
go to the dungeon that they have reserved.
Which I liked the contrast between the two because they talked about how the Great Hall has all the candles and it's very cozy feeling and stuff.
Candles too in
They
the
have
dungeons?
they have candles too, but they said how they're blue flames and it's more you feel the physical cold, but the atmosphere is cold and
It's like a black candle and a blue flame.
yeah, which is super cool. I love it.
It just made me think of a little something different, but the black flame candle in Hocus Pocus
Yeah.
is what that made me think of.
Yeah.
But a little different here.
Yeah.
They hear this screeching like nails on a chalkboard as they're getting closer to the dungeon, and Ron makes the astute observation is that supposed to be music?
Well, everything's is that supposed to be music? Is that supposed to be food? Is that supposed to be entertainment? None of this is
Well,
what the
Hermione-
living would enjoy.
Hermione makes another astute observation later when they get to the food and it's all rotten food.
Mm-hmm.
And she makes this really, really smart comment about I bet you they let it go rotten so they can almost taste it. So the
Right.
flavor's more pungent.
Right. Which then I guess can ghosts smell?
I would say no.
I would say no too. So it's really we're letting it rot for nothing.
Oh, it's probably just, I don't know, rotten Sure that's just left over from something. I don't even know.
From the last Deathday party.
Very possible. 500 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit, not like my excited rant, but just the variety of ghosts that are hanging around. I mean, there's ones from the castle, but there's also like those who got invited. And we do meet a new ghost who has apparently been in the castle this whole time that the girls would be aware of, Moaning Myrtle. And of course, we see her getting taunted horribly by Peeves, who's enjoying all of this.
Peeves was pretty brutal. Peeves was pretty brutal. Like, early Ron level, but more so.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
But yeah, the girls would know of her because I think she resides in the girls' bathroom.
Right. Which,
but
when I read it, I always kind of crack up because, like, yeah, girls do like to spend time in the bathroom, and she died in the bathroom, so she spends a lot of her afterlife in the bathroom.
that she does. But yeah, no, there's a lot of different aspects to the Deathday party. Do you think? Here's my question. So they had like a saw orchestra, which was the nails on the chalkboard sounding.
Right.
Just because they're dead, and I get the food thing, like letting it go right. You can't taste it. You can't eat it anyway.
Right.
You can't even smell it. And I get letting it go rotten just to almost have the taste of the pungent flavor.
Right.
But as far as the music goes,
Why is it so awful?
Yeah, why?
Because it's celebrating death. It's supposed to be a mourning of his
You're
lost
telling me
life
they don't go
from
into the
500 years ago.
You don't tell me that they go into the Great Hall and they enjoy like good sounding things. Of course they do. Come on.
It's supposed to be depressing, morbid.
There's depressing
type
good
party.
music. You could be on pitch and on tone.
We could just have like emo music playing.
That's fine. You can have My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. Welcome to the Black Parade on repeat. Oh my gosh, that is going to be my Deathday
I just
party.
triggered Elizabeth. I'm sorry.
That is going to be my Deathday party when I become a ghost, and I hope you all enjoy it. You're all invited.
You now get my point. You now understand where I'm coming from. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Come on now. But
I
anyway.
think Nick is just trying to go for the impressive, like, sad tone to it to really try to make himself seem, cooler than he now is 500 years after his death. Just being the Gryffindor ghost.
Anyway,
they do escape the party.
They do eventually escape the party, but they walk into quite the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And we get another cliffhanger. We had a cliffhanger in the last chapter with the Harry hearing voices.
Which he hears the voice again.
Yes.
And they, of course, have to follow the voice because curiosity. We can't help ourselves. And
well,
then
Harry has to. The other two are like, what are you doing?
Right. And then they see on the wall, the chamber's secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware.
Yes.
Which, just imagine if you saw, it's not blood, but it's red. And you saw that, painted on the walls of your high school. That'd be a pretty traumatic thing. I feel like the school would shut down. Try to do some investigation, whatnot. Definitely, Ron said, not like a scene that you want to be found at.
No. That's one of the things that should be obvious, but also needs to be said.
Right.
We should probably leave.
Well, because, of course, they see poor Mrs. Norris there, and their Gryffindor sense is immediately, I want to help.
How is she hung up on the lantern?
By her tail.
Yeah, but is the tail, curled around the lantern?
Probably.
Or, is it, I got that, and I was like, how is it hanging there?
It was just, it was maybe like a hook, like a little, ornament hook.
I mean, that's how I took it, but it's they don't really specify, and I'm like, how is the... Anyway, sorry.
I felt bad for Mrs. Norris, though. I know people are like, well...
You have that on your notes here? You have poor Mrs. Norris with a frowny face.
She's a cat, and I love cats.
She is, we can get into Mrs. Norris a little bit.
We don't need to, but, I just feel bad.
We'll get there. Anyway. We should probably stop here, because most of what we want to talk about, we'll just unload in the spoiler section, so be prepared for all of that, because Elizabeth is going to come hard in the spoiler section, so I will try to contain as best as I can.
No containment, just let me go.
So come on back for that, it will be really good.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
All right, so we are back from break. I wanted to touch up on some Filch-related things to start off the spoiler section. Filch and Mrs. Norris.
This is the first time I feel bad for Filch.
Mrs. Norris is the first one to spot Harry coming in with the muddy shoes and Quidditch outfit. And then literally seconds after that, Filch comes bursting through tapestry.
Yeah.
So here's something's going on there, right? Like there's a deeper connection.
Mm-hmm.
But no non-magical... I know you love your cat. But...
She's adorable.
If Pandora got loose somewhere... Pandora's her cat. If Pandora got loose somewhere, and like... God forbid she gets out, and she's just gone.
I would freak.
You'd freak. Because you know why you'd freak? You have no idea where she went to. This is a massive castle. How does Filch know exactly which hallway
I mean, like, I guess...
she's in?
I mean, Pandora does tend to follow me around in my apartment, which, granted, is an apartment, not a 7-floor castle.
I get her following him,
But him following her...
but him being able to find, like, she spots, hey, Peeves is over here doing something, or this student's not where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then Filch shows up like 2 seconds later. How does that happen?
I don't know, he's got cat sense.
It's just, it's always been weird to me, and I've never had that question answered. If you remember, like, I don't think it's ever been answered, and correct me if I'm wrong. I
thought it got answered in, like, one of the movies that I haven't seen.
I don't know about that.
Maybe, I thought there were, like, rumors that, like, Mrs. Norris was, like, a person.
That could be, considering how they worked Nagini in one of the Fantastic Beasts movies.
I don't know.
They made Nagini an actual person that had some cursed blood disorder that turned her into a snake. Anyway, that could, I suppose, be. But when I was in the fan forums back in the day before Deathly Hallows came out, rumors were rampant that Mrs. Norris was a big player in Book 7 because she's clearly otherworldly. She's not a normal cat. So is she,
I wonder if she has conversations with McGonagall.
Is she an animagus? Was she...
Who got stuck?
A cursed being of some sort that got stuck? Like, whatever. People were, like, all over the place kind of spinning these theories that never got answered, obviously.
And I also wonder how long she's been alive, because cats can live a decent length of time, but usually not much longer than 15, 16 years.
Again, like a Scabbers situation.
Right.
Where a rat is still alive.
Choosing to stay in that form.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. Their connection is obviously not a normal thing.
Right.
So I just wanted to kind of put that out there anyway.
Yeah.
So Vanishing Cabinet got broken, huh?
It did. And we were discussing in the break. So
We
Vanishing...
fought. We actually
we
threw
were
down.
fighting a little bit. So the Vanishing Cabinet, we know, is massively important for later on. And it ends up in the Room of Requirements. And so obviously Filch had to take the cabinet to the room, which Dan doesn't think he can get into the room. I think he can, because we do know that he has found cleaning supplies in that room before. I don't know if it's Dobby who said that or Dumbledore who said that. I feel like it was Dobby. But like he knows of the room. So if he put the cabinet in the room, I think he did that as a way to hide it because he doesn't want anyone to know that it got broken on his watch. Because then if there's further discussion, we're going to talk about the quick spell, and then it's going to come out even more like why he was so distracted.
Here's my thinking. I will relent on he can use the room because Hogwarts discerns that, like that otherworldly magic, that like
Right.
will of whatever magic.
The
Whatever.
castle wills it.
Kind of, yeah. I will relent that he can access the room.
Well, we know he can't because he can get cleaning supplies.
Here's the thing. Does he knowingly manipulate it? Or is he capable of figuring that out, that puzzle? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, like, we know the room requirement, you have to walk past it 3 times, back, forth, back.
Yeah.
And then you have to be thinking the entire time of
I
what
need
you want.
this, yeah.
So if he's known, like, he's walked past it to find cleaning supplies there, and then, like, if he goes back later and it's not there because he doesn't need it, well, then he would know that I need a place to hide something.
Do you think he could figure out that that's what opened it?
Yeah, I
Or
would think so. If he's been
is his
the
imagination-
custodian for this long,
I know he knows secrets of Hogwarts.
right?
The room of requirement's not a secret that many know about.
But he does know about
And
it.
it's not on the map that
No,
he
it's not
has,
on the
nor
map.
does he, not that
He doesn't know how to work the map.
I don't think he knows how to work the map either.
He just knows it's something.
So there's this room. I just don't. Let's say he puts it in there. Let's say he puts the.
Well, we know
vanishing
he did because that's why I got there.
We don't. It doesn't explicitly say Filch put it in there, but
Well, who else would put it in? Nick
Well,
can't. Nick can't
that's
like
what
move
I'm-
it.
no. But I mean, maybe Dumbledore put it in there.
You'd have
Maybe
to go admit to
got rid of
Dumbledore.
it,
Like I
or-
broke the really expensive vanishing cabinet.
Sure.
Sorry. I feel like Dumbledore would then repair
Can
it.
you repair it?
Well, yeah, it can get repaired.
What if he does that and Dumbledore just doesn't want to deal with it? I don't know.
I feel like Dumbledore would like very quickly fix it.
Probably.
McGonagall would probably also.
It's
very
probably a
quickly-
complicated bit of magic, though. I can't.
I
imagine
would think
it's
either
super
Filch
simple.
hid it or he got Snape to help him hide it.
Maybe. But I guess my point is, let's say he puts it in there, and he puts it in this room of things.
Lots
and lots of things. There's nothing else in that room that would intrigue him or tempt him or whatever. Like,
I think it's just the embarrassment of the quick spell and being a squib and the knowledge that he can't fix this magically because he is a squib. So, and the embarrassment of this is broken on my watch. And he's kind of distracted by like,
I just need a place to hide this.
I need a place to hide this, and I need to go take care of that letter, and I need to go complain to Dumbledore about Peeves because this should get him expelled. You know, I think it's just like, I'm going to put this away. I can't fix it. Maybe I'll get someone else to fix it later on. Who knows? But I'll just forget about it because it's in that room, never to be revisited until Malfoy finds it.
I don't know. I just have my doubts of Filch's capabilities.
Let us know what you think.
Oh, I'm sure Anna's going to hate me for it. Anyway, moving on. All right. We've delayed long enough. Elizabeth is going to tackle some ghost thoughts. I'm going to try to come back with whatever knowledge I could have found. Where do you want to start?
The ghost paper.
Ghost paper.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Every single time I reread this, the fact that Nick has a transparent letter fascinates me for so many reasons. Like, okay.
That's clearly written on.
It's written on and it got delivered. How? Okay, so like we know that like if you go to a craft store, you can buy transparent paper. But it's still manipulated. Like you can feel it, you can touch it. So that's not this type of paper. Nick can't touch things. He can't manipulate things. So this paper had to be specifically made for ghosts. So my question is, how does it get made? Like, do they take a dead tree and turn it into paper and then it's like the ghost of the tree? Or was it like you take a sheet of paper and you put it in a potion and then that like develops it the same way we talk about developing pictures?
More realistic.
It's more realistic. Does that develop it into ghost paper? But then it would have to be created by a living wizard. So you would need a living wizard to be working for the ghosts, like a living like secretary to ghosts to create this paper. But then also you probably need a ghost quill, right? Unless you're writing on the paper first and then developing it in the potion, in which case this ghost needs to like dictate it to you before you write it on the paper. But then there's also like how does it get sent to the ghost? Is there like a dead owl sending it? Like clearly owls need to hold it. Like does it come in a real envelope that an owl can touch, or does it need to be like, but then how does that get taken out of the envelope? Like I just have so many questions.
All right. I'm going to try my best with thoughts and then with some actual research that I did for this.
Okay.
Admittedly, and I looked, there's not a whole lot on ghosts in
I've
Harry
tried
Potter.
looking too. There's nothing on the paper.
Yeah, there isn't. J.K. did write something for Wizarding World, but it was very, very generalized. Mostly stuff we honestly
About the
already
ghosts?
knew. Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing really to take note of in her writing about ghosts. Now, there are theories that, to your point, like potions or magic.
Or like a charm, maybe.
That can help.
But a living wizard would have to do that.
A living wizard would have to. There's supposedly a spirit division of the Department for Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures.
Really?
Supposedly, that's what I'm reading here on the Harry Potter.
I'm surprised that's not in like the Department of Mysteries.
It could be part of it. I don't know.
Huh.
But the Ministry, which makes sense. If there's... So they have a department for everything.
Right.
Right? Versus all types of magic.
Right.
It would then stand to believe that there would be a department that'd be like, hey, we should probably do something with all the ghosts, like,
I wonder
wandering
if
around.
anyone, like, if you have to go through the department to put in a request to become a ghost.
Well, I would assume there'd be a living wizard, witcher wizard,
Mm-hmm.
and then there'd also be a ghost representative working at the ministry.
Yeah, maybe.
To kind of, obviously, you'd have to have some sort of representative,
Yeah.
I would imagine, just like any other magical creature. I'm sure centaurs have...
Well, because we know Nick said how, like, way, way later, how when people come to him to ask him about the afterlife after they've had a death in their family, like how there's so many questions with it. And he said the people at the department or at the ministry do study it. But he said, like, it has to be a wizard. And that makes me think there has to be some type of spell or something that needs to be done. Or I wonder if it's like it's a choice you make right at the brink of death, and then that is what lets you come back.
I think there's some wiggle room in that there is a branch of magic that can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be that. However, the one other thing that I saw that could also be part of it is you've had questions about Professor Binns in the past. How does he grade?
Right.
So here's what I found on that is just like where they died is important to where they're actually haunting.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Myrtle in that girl's bathroom.
Right.
Well, Binns died as a teacher.
I bet he died at his desk grading.
Well, I think he died in the teacher's lounge, and then thought it was time to get up for class.
Just went
got up, but he was dead, and the ghost got up and went to class. So my point is, the theory behind that is since he died as a teacher and he was literally trying to go teach,
right.
everything that's incumbent in that profession, that action that he was trying to do at the time of his death is still available to him. So he can manipulate,
the thing.
Pens, quills, parchment.
Well, see, I don't know about that because, like, we know
that's the theory that's been.
We know a poltergeist can do that.
Correct.
Thieves can mess with whatever the heck
Correct.
he wants, but the ghosts, I mean, you can walk through them. You get very, very cold when that happens, but like, I mean, when Nick gets shot with the basilisk, like he becomes a black smoke kind of a thing. Like he can't touch anything with the Deathday party.
Well, he can't die twice.
He can't eat anything. He can't like do anything.
Well, this goes into the potion that was made from Professor Sprout and Pomfrey.
Yeah, like how did that potion get delivered to him?
That's a branch of magic that I'm sure they probably had to consult on.
Like vaporize it?
I don't know. But that's similar to what we're discussing.
Right.
That there has to be a branch of magic that deals with that.
With ghosts.
Yeah. But anyway, there's been that thought too. I mean, to your point, the ghosts in the Headless Hunt were playing polo.
Right.
The polo stick, the polo mallet. How?
Well, I imagined it was a ghost one, an invisible one.
Yeah, but it's still...
Like
that didn't die. Did they die with that in their hand?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, yeah,
That's
maybe.
the point.
Like I was thinking, like, if the living know that the Headless Hunt is a social group in the afterlife, could they go pick up the things that they want to take with them? Like, I mean, they say you can't take it with you, but here maybe you can, and then you die with those objects.
Were they polo players that died while playing polo?
I don't know. See, that's what I was wondering about Patrick.
A rogue polo ball decapitated a player, and now
well, that's why I'm wondering, like, Patrick Podmore. I mean,
and
like,
the horse. It would have to injure the horse too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can find a dead horse and take it with you, I guess. I don't know.
You can't lead a dead horse to polo.
I wondered, like, if the living wizard is like, yeah, I don't want to go to beyond. I want to stay in this life. And they know that the headless hunt is a thing, maybe not very well known, but maybe if they've done some research of what's available to them. I mean, could they request being beheaded as their death so that they could join it and then be more social? Because, I mean, Nick clearly wants that social aspect, but
he was hit 45 times with a blunt axe.
a bit painful.
First of all, to kill someone, you really just have to get through the spinal cord. And he's left with what, like a half inch of skin and sinew left? So it took 45 hacks, and then it must have just like completely went through almost on the last one. So it took like 44 hacks just to get through the spinal cord?
Maybe his killer just like lost his energy by the end of it. He was like, half an inch, he's dead.
That is crazy. Mercy.
But yeah, if you wanted to avoid Nick's fate, could you request being beheaded for your death so that you could join this headless hunt and have a social life or social afterlife?
I guess. I mean, it's you had a note about all the social cues of them still, following.
Shall we go into that?
We can, if you want.
All the ghosts at the party. I mean, like Bloody Baron. Even though they're all dead, there's nothing that can hurt them. Kind of, because we know like the basilisks can, but like the Bloody Baron is still being avoided by everybody. They still have the same social cues as they did when they were alive. Like he is an intimidating, scary, creepy ghost. Right, the chains don't help. So all the other ghosts are like, let's avoid him. And then you have like, Hufflepuff's ghost, the frat friar, being like Mr. Social, talking to everybody. Which also then makes me wonder, like, what do they chat about as ghosts? Because, I mean, the idea of like, oh, this is how I died, this is how you died, like, that's a one-time topic, I feel like. And then if you want to talk about the real world and like what's going on in the living world, maybe you want to talk about that, but would you be interested in that? Because you can't have any impact on it,
I'm confused about that, too. Because, now this was from J.K. Rowling's writing on Wizarding World, is she said that their knowledge and input stops at time of death.
Okay.
So it's
their
like,
knowledge of like the world?
Yeah, like they can't. My interpretation of her writing that was they can't gain knowledge while being a ghost. That's how I interpreted it.
That seems weird to me.
Current events doesn't really apply to them.
Exactly.
They can't.
So it's like, so what do you talk about?
What happened up to and including your death, I'm assuming.
I guess.
But I guess that's what she was trying to say there. It was like, essentially, your impact on the world ends at death.
Which then makes me wonder of like, Professor Binns. Like, he talks about the Chamber's secrets. Is that why he doesn't know anyone's name? Because he can't learn their names?
Maybe.
I mean, their names are similar to his name. I always took it as like he just didn't care to learn.
No, it might be that he actually can't. It might be, seriously, it might be that he actually, but Nick seems to know Harry.
Yeah, and he seems like to recognize that he's an important person, like who has had an impact on the world, because he's like, Harry Potter.
Right.
Can you tell everybody how scary and fascinating you find me?
The rules there are a little like...
There's so much wiggle room, and that's why I love talking about the ghosts, because I feel like if I was a Hogwarts student, I would want to find out so much from them, and they seem like a very underrepresented source.
You think
in
they
the
just
castle.
want to know history. Like, they'd be a great source of history because they lived through whatever periods they lived through.
Yeah, I mean, like, if Professor Binns himself wasn't a ghost, I feel like you'd invite them to the class and be like, tell us your firsthand experience of being in living through whatever.
Was Columbus a jerk? Yes or no? What do you got?
Did
Nick?
he kill you? Like, what's the thing there? Like, I don't know. And so there's that, and there's the social interactions with them. And I mean, yeah, like they die, they seem to maintain their, like their human personality. So like Moaning Myrtle, obviously she was young. So she's still that whiny child who's also like, oh, boys.
Yeah, she's stuck as a teenage girl,
Yeah, and a very insecure teenage girl who, you know.
Who hasn't emotionally...
She cries so much.
But she hasn't developed at all in the time, in the, 50-something years or whatever since it happened?
Right. So, I mean, that's like a very lonely afterlife, too. So, I mean, we know Moaning Myrtle later on, she befriends Malfoy, and they have that connection a little bit. But it just makes you wonder, like, what do the ghosts do during the day? Because there's no... I mean, like, they say, like, oh, you become a ghost because you have unfinished business. But what business do the ghosts do? You know, because, like, they're not sleeping. I imagine they kind of patrol that castle, maybe. But the teachers also do that. And it's like, where do you go during the day? What do you do during the day or the night? Does Myrtle just literally cry all day long? And does the Bloody Baron just stay there, like, does he go try to find the Grey Lady and she just hides from him all day? It's just, like, an eternity of hide and seek in the castle?
I don't even know that the Bloody Baron would even try. Because, I mean, that story is a dark, tragic story. Yeah. So, I mean, he bears the punishment that he bears.
But I feel like Nick and the Fat Friar, I feel like they're social enough that maybe they'd be, like, you know, trying to befriend people and talk to them or something. But, I mean, like, even the fact that he has this letter from the hunt makes me think, like, oh, he lives a life. His afterlife of trying to be social and putting together this party and getting excited for stuff. And it's like, what do you do during the day? I want to know.
Where do you think Binns was during this? Was he just asleep in the teacher's lounge again?
I feel like he's not a social enough person to go to a party.
I probably just slept through it. He's like, yeah, I'll be there.
No, he was like, I have grading to do. I can't come to the party. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know.
Gotta read this dumb kid's essay.
Again. And it was terrible, I'm sure. I don't know. It's just, it's fascinating to me to think that these ghosts exist in the castle, and the vast majority of the students, one, are not scared of them, which I think the first reaction
the first years are
would be like, what's that? They get used to them, and then it's just like, you know, no one goes to them to talk to them or to ask more questions about them. I mean, maybe it's just because they're preteens and teenagers who live very self-centered lives, because that's just the mentality of their age. But you would think that someone would be really, like someone like Hermione or like, you know, Luna would be fascinated by, like, how did you get to this state? What almost happened at death? Like, what was that experience like? And I mean, we know Harry does eventually later, but...
I think, what you mentioned about Luna, I think she obviously shows that she is interested in that kind of stuff, because she obviously has spoken at length with the Grey Lady.
Right.
So, and she has her own, you know, history with death.
Right.
So I think she has shown that kind of reverence. Mm-hmm. It is interesting that Hermione doesn't have that curiosity.
Especially if she was so interested with this.
She also doesn't have the history of
death.
And,
yeah.
You know.
I mean, being a Muggle-born, you would think, like, ghosts. You think, like, scary movies and stuff, and then to discover that they exist. And they're not all, like, you know, out to get you. Peeves is more out to get you than Nick is. So you'd think it'd just be interesting to interview them.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm sure this won't be the last conversation. Well, obviously, because the Grey Lady's going to come up and be a big player down the road.
The only other thing, unless there was more about ghosts that you had to add.
Oh, no, you're the ghost.
I just love the ghosts, you guys. The only other thing I had was with Ginny. We started the chapter where she's getting Pepper Up Potion because she was looking pale, which I think it's because she's starting to recognize she's losing her memory. And it's not just like one or two times. It's like, I mean, it's October now. It's been over.
That's a big time jump.
It's
they took a big time jump.
It's a lot of time for her to be having parts of her brain, you know, not there.
It's almost 2 months.
Yeah. And so we know the chamber gets opened. She's the one who opens it. So she must have like snuck away during the feast, which was very lucky for her since Myrtle is at the Deathday party and not in the bathroom to witness things. But like she wrote the message on the wall, so clearly that took a little bit of time. We know later she said she found paint on herself and whatever. But I'm wondering if she did go into the chamber at this point, or if it was just like, I'm going to write the message to let everyone know and be threatened and scared and whatever.
I would assume, because the basilisk has been let loose.
Right.
So I'd assume she's ventured in there to let said basilisk loose.
So you think this is just I finally have an opportunity to write a message on the wall without getting
No,
caught?
I think it's well, I don't know. It's not really her thing. It's all Riddle thing.
Right.
Of like which order he wants to do this all in.
It just seems like perfect opportunity since everyone's at the feast and all of the ghosts are in their own little area, including Myrtle.
Oh yeah, it's a great opportunity.
There's no one to catch her. Though you would think with the message being written right next to the bathroom, they do a better.
It also helps Riddle out that
it's
it's
the bathroom.
a first year that even though she's a Weasley, no one really cares about a first year.
Yeah.
Unless their name is Harry Potter, no one cares. So it's perfect opportunity for Riddle because it's like if Lucius had given the diary to Ron or Percy or whoever, people would know that they're not where they're supposed to be.
Right.
Like you can lose track of a first year real easily because no one has.
You haven't seen them for
especially
a long time.
early in the semester.
Mm-hmm.
You're not used to having them there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it's a brilliant scheme by Riddle. And then I'm assuming it's just a fact of order of like, okay, Basilisk is still alive. It's still there.
Roosters have been killed, and
we've let it out.
Yeah.
Now we can write the threatening message.
Let's freak them all out.
And now we can actually start harming people.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that would be his bullet point.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that they didn't. I mean, maybe they did do an investigation of the bathroom, but it's like it's right there. You would think that'd be the first place to start. Really, really check it out.
Well, they've. I mean, we can get to this later because it comes up later. But I mean, they've said they've done thorough searches of the entire castle.
Right. I
would imagine they've done a thorough search of the entire castle.
But they didn't look closely enough.
Well, they also didn't have the key. It hurts when you don't have the actual key, and none of them have it because they can't do it. It's a very rare key. But anyway, we can get there when we get there.
Yeah.
But anything else?
I just think it's funny that they have a squib in charge of cleaning the castle. I know that the house elves help with that, but it is like...
It's cruel and unusual punishment.
It really, really is. Yeah. Even with magical cleaning products, it's still like... Yeah. It could be done way more quickly and efficiently by a wizard who can operate magic in a successful manner.
Yeah, you'd think. But, it's Dumbledore giving a job to someone that...
Would probably not get hired otherwise.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's, kindness of his heart to kind of like...
It seems like there could be a better job for him to do. That would make him be less bitter, probably.
I can't blame him for being bitter. That'd just be terrible. But yeah, and the jealousy that he probably has of all of these students doesn't help.
Yeah.
So... On that note of bitterness and jealousy, we will end,
and death.
We will end this Deathday party episode. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you again to all of our new followers. Really awesome that we're growing. So thank you all for that. And for Dan and Elizabeth.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.